10 o'clock. Can we make a start, please? We're going to start by introducing ourselves for online participants. So I'm Councillor Cathy Lugg from Ferndown North, and I'm chairing this meeting. Pauline Batstone is helping me on this to keep me on the straight and narrow.
Pauline Batstone, Blackmore Vale Ward, and former Vice Chairman.
Howard Legg, Upway and Broadway.
Jean Dunseith, Chickerell.
Thank you. Sorry, somebody's still got their... No? Okay. Can we have apologies, please, George?
Good morning. We have apologies from Councillors Mike Parks, Ryan Holloway and Rebecca Knox.
Okay. Do the officers want to introduce themselves? And Councillor Carr-Jones. Sorry, Graham.
Morning, Graham Carr-Jones, Lead Member Housing, Dorset Council.
Hello there, Andrew Billany, Corporate Director, Housing and Community Safety for Dorset.
Sarah Smith, Housing Strategy Lead.
Sharon Atwater, Service Manager, Housing Strategy and Performance.
Thank you. Does anybody have a declaration of interest they wish to make? No? Sorry. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Tony. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. To approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of October 2023.
I move the minutes, Chairman.
Moved by Councillor Batstone. Seconder? Yeah. Somebody happy to second those minutes? Councillor Isoda. Okay. Public participation. We have no members of the public here. Questions from members. There are no questions from members as far as I'm aware. Okay. Item number 6, urgent items. There are no urgent items. So we're going to item 7, which is the work programme and forward plans. To consider the committee's work programme and Cabinet's forward plan. George is just going to run through this for us.
So I'm just going to outline what's on the forward plans for our upcoming meetings. For our next meeting on the 6th of February, we've got the Pathfinder implementation plan for the Families First for Children's Pathfinder. We have a report on social mobility, the sufficiency strategy, and to review the refreshed equality, diversity and inclusion strategy. We also have a second meeting scheduled for next year on the 19th of March, and we currently don't have any items for that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Anybody, any comments to make on that? No? Sorry, Jean.
Chair, we do have on the 19th of March, oh, sorry, I haven't read it properly. It says unscheduled committee items. My apologies.
Okay, thank you. Main item of today's meeting, Home In on Housing, Dorset Council's housing strategy. Andrew Billany is going to present this for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just before Andrew gives us some slides and bits and pieces, I just want to give you a bit of a preamble into the housing strategy, because I'm pleased to introduce Dorset Council's housing strategy, because this sets out our priorities for housing over the next 5 years. The strategy is, if you like, it's the last thing in the housing trilogy, and it replaces the former Dorset District Council's authorities' housing policies. So we started with the housing allocations policy when Dorset Council was formed. This was given, basically given it was the most important thing to get those on our waiting lists housed. After the housing allocations policy, then came the homelessness and rough sleepers strategy, again protecting our vulnerable residents as a priority. So the trilogy now ends with the housing strategy itself. It's an overarching framework to support the delivery of work, which aims to bring our vision for housing in Dorset into being more than just a document which props up a shelf somewhere. There must be a delivery plan that sits behind this strategic document. Our desire and will to ensure our residents have access to affordable, suitable, secure homes where they can live as well as a part of a sustainable and thriving communities. Look, we already know that homes that are safe, warm and suitable result in a better quality of life, something that I believe that we would all wish for all of our residents. Good housing can improve health and financial well-being and help people feel safe and secure. Quality housing can help support thriving communities and reduce the impact on Dorset's environment. Housing can give children and young people the best start in life and help them access education, skills and gainful employment. This strategy outlines the housing pressures facing some of Dorset's residents, and it sets out our strategic approach to meeting these pressures. It is supported by a high-level themed action plan, a detailed delivery plan, plus supporting strategies, policies and procedures that will be developed over the lifetime of this strategy. These activities will reflect how the Council's objectives will be delivered. The strategy has been developed over the last 12 months using extensive research, engagement with members, including various online drop-in events. We've engaged with our stakeholders, such as our registered providers, homeless charities, town and parish councils. We had an extensive public consultation which received 2,137 responses. And that goes to show how important housing is to our community. And I'm delighted to have been a part of the development of this strategy. And I just want to pay my thanks to the team that worked so hard to get this strategy to where we are today. And I'll ask you to consider it and recommend it to Cabinet. Now I'm going to hand over to Andrew Billany to give us some presentation on slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll just load some slides briefly, so a brief pause while I do that. Okay, right, got there. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, you've all seen the paper, and there are obviously considerable detail in the exercise that we've carried out, and we're pleased with the response to the strategy consultation that's gone on over the last year. So the content is there in the report for you to consider. This is a summary of, and Graham's touched on this a little bit, about how what we've done so far, and it's and that journey towards the bit at the end, which I'll come on to, around how we're going to deliver against the tone that we've set with the strategy. So it is a build from existing policies. We've done lots of internal and stakeholder engagement and public engagement in order to test our propositions about where we as housing professionals and housing leads, from a political point of view, test our assumptions. So we've had good quality and a good range of engagement and responses from all of those people. So internally within the council, with our partners and stakeholders such as the registered provider housing associations, but also from members of the public and interested groups. The research piece as well, when Sarah and Sharon on my left are here, because they've done a majority of the work around that research and analytics of the information that we hold, making sure we explore best practice from elsewhere to make sure we stay innovative in what is essentially quite a challenging environment. So, consultation overview points, which were worth picking out. We did deliberately go for a broad reach as far as possible, so all who are interested, please respond. We had 2,137 responses, which we're very pleased with. We did test the existing vision, or certainly the vision that's broadly laid out in the Council's plan and the direction, and that's pleasing that 86% of people were in broad agreement with that direction of travel, and also around our aims and objectives, which I'll just remind people of in a slide coming up. Okay, and these are the broad themes that we tested. So the headline of that is to ensure that residents in all forms of tenure have access to affordable, suitable, and secure homes where people can live well and thrive, and that relates in a number of forms. So housing need, where people have a need for that kind of accommodation, maybe in inappropriate housing currently, and recognising that will sometimes need new housing. So driving the delivery of new homes that people need, and making sure that they're affordable in the right place. Third objective, which often gets underplayed, I think, in some of these discussions, is around the standards of existing housing. So making sure we're doing what we can as a housing authority and partner to improve the quality, standard and safety of existing homes. And that's an increasing feature of government's attention at the moment around damp and mould in areas such as that. Fourth vision, and its statutory requirement also about preventing homelessness, making sure we're getting in at the right time to prevent homelessness and people entering crisis. Okay, the key theme, this heading key themes, is the key themes of people's responses rather than what we put out in the vision. So this gives you again, probably 2,000 different responses, but this is the most common comment coming back from all the various participants. Lots of comments around right infrastructure, and around new build and new housing developments. So making sure we're not just building housing without that in place, so that we're looking across the council and our ability to influence through planning, etc., around things like road improvements, school capacity, GPs, etc. That was a theme. Design was also a theme as well, and that's from a number of different angles: energy efficiency, environmental impacts, but also around adaptations as well, making sure that design of new homes was good enough to make sure people could stay in those homes for longer as they aged, perhaps, and became frailer. Third theme, it's probably no surprise here, is just people recognising there is a shortage of, well, we've done what we do well as an authority in delivering a good number of social and affordable housing for rent, 664 last year. But it's recognised that the demand for that is still rising beyond that level. The fourth point on here is also stressing the point it isn't just social and affordable housing. People are saying to us through the consultation and also widely that there's a need for access to housing at various price ranges and tenures, and that could be low-cost home ownership, housing for people who've got middle and low incomes across the employed sector, could be health, could be us, could be a local employer. So that's come out as a theme, is not just to focus on the affordable and social housing element. So just one last slide. This could be a very long set of slides, but we've limited it to 8 or 9. So I just pick on the first item on this slide. It did come up a lot as around the comments that Dorset being an attractive place to be. We have got a disproportionately large amount of properties let out on holiday lets, Airbnb, and second homes. So it's the comments were around how we mitigate the impact on that to make sure there's enough for for people who want to rent and live on a longer term basis. Homelessness also, I think I mentioned, but that's more about people who are at risk of losing their home, and comments around making sure that's a strong feature of our strategy. Mentioned home ownership. I think I'd just move on to the last two, which is around common comment that's made about how we make best use of our resources, and that's council resources, but also more broadly, how can we make sure that the registered providers and developers, etc., are applying those resources wisely. So we're using land, we're using our assets, and using our enabling expertise to make sure we get as much and the most appropriate housing built. And I've mentioned improving the standard of rented housing. Okay, this is probably difficult for you to see in the room, but just it's a graph of this is doing a count of the top 5 issues, and it's a repeat of the themes I've put out in the first slide, but you might be interested to see the top 5 being building more social and affordable housing, the infrastructure point about making sure we've got enough support in place to make sure that housing works, home ownership for first-time buyers and working-age people, that was featured strongly, design for a number of reasons, but particularly around energy efficiency, access, mobility access and natural environment, and homelessness. Just to digest, residents said many things, but these are just four quotes, which gives you a flavour of what people were saying around supporting the headline around themes. So homes that are genuinely affordable, sustainable and accessible was the first comment, and making sure it works locally, meeting the needs of people in their local communities. Again, the second quote supports the infrastructure point, and also to make sure there's a right balance between providing the homes, but also not at the expense of green spaces and that wider environmental piece. Gives you a flavour. I think I won't read them all out because I think it's just an illustration of the themes that we've tried to highlight in the reports. So this is a staging point in many ways, as Graham has said. We've got good policies and effective policies in place for the allocation of housing and dealing with homelessness. This is a strategy which looks to set the tone for a broader set of objectives. The key stage next is making sure we've got a strong delivery plan, which works with partners, works with other parts of the council to get some flesh on the bones, if you like, to deliver the objectives that we're looking to set out. So there will next be a detailed delivery and transformation plan in place. And those of you will recall in September Cabinet, a housing board, it was agreed a housing board would be set up as well, which would have a key role in overseeing that delivery. And we monitor and evaluate as we go. This list is in the report. We've deliberately not fleshed this out into detail around delivery because it's very much around where we go next on for example, detailed numbers of details around how we deliver particular projects with registered providers or other areas, but these are the key headings around that delivery plan, which will really pick up pace over the coming months. Increasing housing delivery, making sure we're doing what we do in the right place. The right property heading is very much about making sure we've got suitable housing, and that could be existing homes as well as new, to make sure people can live well in those properties. Data insight and development. That heading might seem routine and detailed, but it's crucial to this. It's about how we make sure we use the information that we hold as a local authority in a set of partners, including integrated care board, integrated care system, for example, how we use that information to inform our delivery. You know, what do we need where, what can people afford, etc. So to continue to fine-tune how we use our data. I think I'll move on. I think I've addressed most of this has been mentioned already, but I probably would highlight the a relatively small but important part of the delivery plan will be around bringing empty homes back as well, because I think that's not been mentioned so far. Okay, I think I'll move to the last bit, because then I'll open it up for people to probe us. Just fleshing out the next steps for delivery is probably important. I've come to overview and also scrutiny and other meetings across the council where there's growing commitment to see housing as not just a job for the four of us sitting in a row here. It's about how housing underpins a number of different council priorities too. So next steps of delivery, a lot of it will be very much cross-council. So as well as our statutory responsibilities around homelessness, to look how we deliver in other areas. And making sure we do keep holding that point that decent homes is a key component of a good life, and bad housing makes things go in an opposite direction. Also about delivery, given we're in challenging financial times as well, it's about how we deliver efficiently, so that making sure we do well, continue to do well around getting income stream from grants and rents, and making sure we lobby on it in areas where, such as the recent announcement about local housing allowance changes, so make sure we're getting enough income in to provide all that we want to provide. We do well on that. We've just recently successfully been awarded a grant for more single homeless accommodation, which we'll be announcing shortly, but it's to continue down that route. Fourth point around next steps, the position we put forward is we are fundamentally an enabling authority. So much of what we do depends on partners, particularly in the social and affordable housing area. It's registered provider partners, housing associations. So it's about how we deliver with our own position, intervening when we need to, selectively when that provides the best value. That's a key theme for delivery. And also associated with that, it's about how we make sure we perform well. So we have a clear plan, delivery plan, which helps and supports me in my day job, but also the team deliver on expectations. We are currently bucking the national trend by reducing temporary accommodation, numbers of people in temporary accommodation, which again is strong news, good news. But we want to make sure we've got a plan that stay along that pathway. Last couple of points, and then I'll stop. Recognise, and many of you will have seen press around how difficult a lot of other local authorities have found themselves, particularly financial difficulties around housing, cost of temporary accommodation, where we have plans in place that are transformational in form, and we're looking at options such as from promoting the ways we can get access to market rent accommodation to make sure people can rent when they can afford to, and we have alternatives to bed and breakfast through emergency accommodation, and also some transformational work about how we have good systems internally. So that's probably the end. I just wanted to stress one point. I think one or two of the questions may well be in this territory. We're proud of what we've done. It's a strong housing strategy, but it's not the local plan. It's not the climate ecology strategy. We're developing a housing strategy which fits with other directions of travel and other policies and strategies for the council. So just want to stress that point. Some of our work and our recommendations are very much in alignment with those areas, particularly the local plan and planning. So just wanted to stress that point. It's not trying to confuse. It's deliberately designed to integrate and align with other council policies. I shall stop there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. It's a very comprehensive plan. Does anybody want to speak to this? Howard?
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I just check that I sent to Councillor Mike Parks an email last night saying I want to propose 2 amendments. Have you been copied that on to you?
Do you not? report? No.
No, if I can mention that, because the report was very good. And the strategy, I'm not arguing with the strategy, because as mentioned in this presentation now, the strategy is being supported, if you like, or needs to be considered along with the resources that we have and the way that we will implement that strategy. And the implementation was mentioned extensively, but resources was mentioned a couple of times as well. And if you look at, sorry, this keeps on going off, page 23 of the report, it gives the reasons for supporting the housing strategy. And I don't think those reasons are strong enough. And this report will be going to the Cabinet, I believe, with this wording in. And I would like to make it stronger, if I may. So the first amendment I'm proposing is to section 2.3 on page 23. Both amendments are on page 23. And there, I want to propose at the end of paragraph 2.3, so add to it, not change anything that's already there, but supplement it. As a registered provider, we will seek to provide housing that is not currently provided by registered providers. We will also be open to acquiring Section 106 housing where no registered provider is identified. Now, that is a facility, I believe, that is not covered and not included, but is available to us. And I'm not saying we should do it, I'm just saying we should be able to use it as appropriate. And that's the reason why I want to put that in there, so that when we are considering how we go forward with this housing strategy, those weapons or those tools are at our beckoning if we want to use them, and they're not referred to as such. Other things are. So that's my first proposal, Chair.
Yeah, if I just want to respond to that, because part of that proposal has long been my ambition and something I believe that we are actually already stepping into that space of providing housing that some of the registered providers don't want to space in terms of temporary accommodation, because that's where the need is, that's where the gap is, and that's why we've had funding for our own properties. So that, I believe we're already doing that. In terms of we'll be open to acquiring Section 106 housing where registered providers when no RP is identified. That would be something that I would really worry about, because first and foremost, there'd be a reason why the RPs aren't stepping in there to that space. And if we put that down as a commitment to doing that, we leave ourselves open. And I think it's too risky. I'm going to ask Andrew to explain the detail behind that. But I think that whilst I get the sentiment behind it, I don't think we should be trying to tie the council up into something that maybe it won't want to be a part of. Andrew.
Thank you, Graham. I mean, there is potentially, because in many ways this is kind of an example where we'd consider each case on its merits. So I think the probably a more workable wording of that proposal from an operational point of view would be, rather than using the word open to acquiring, is open to considering. And it may seem bland, but it's about making, or we would consider Section 1, we would consider acquiring Section 106 housing where no registered provider is identified. Because as Graham says, we already do that, but it's about making that commitment to always considering it. If a developer offers up a scheme that's not financially viable, that's Graham's point, it wouldn't be good sense for us to be committed to taking that up. Because that's the point that Graham's making. Sometimes the Section 106 offers to the registered providers are turned down for those financial reasons. So we'd want to be able to appraise the position, appraise what was being offered to us. But anyway, the short response I'm giving is that I think it probably would be workable for us to say we would consider Section 106 housing where no registered provider is identified, rather than having that commitment. I hope that makes sense, because I think it's Graham's point, but it's around it wouldn't be commercially sensible for us to commit in all cases to those arrangements if it's been turned down by a registered provider.
Back on that, Howard.
Thank you very much. I'm not saying, it doesn't say it says open to acquiring, not to acquire. So what you're talking about considering is exactly what I want to do. It's an option, it's a tool in the toolbox. We don't have to use every tool when we come across a job. We select what is best. And that's what I hope this will be doing. Not saying we must use that tool. No, it's available to us. And that's what I want to accentuate.
So you want to stick by your original.
I think that consider would be my preferred, you know, if we're just arguing over words.
So it's workable.
Yeah, I think, yeah, perfect. Perfect.
Do you have a seconder? Beryl? Do you want to speak, Beryl?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I would like to second Councillor Legg's proposal. And I must say that, just to mention, Joseph Rowntree Foundation estimated 10 years ago that the whole of this country is going to be, in 2022 actually, that 1.1 million homes short for needy people and families. So that has come true, and it's even worse than that for the whole country. So I think that it's really important that we, as a Dorset Council, the government has now let us become registered providers, and we must actually, in every way possible, not just give temporary housing, but we must actually be there for people who need housing. So if we can make, like Howard's saying, that tool in the toolbox to actually enable that, it's not actually saying we are going to, across the board, provide and squeeze out any of the registered providers. Reading this very comprehensive document, I must say it is very comprehensive, and I'm really glad that people have come forward in the, to put forward their ideas. But really, it is important. It's all about priorities and finances. But remember, we all, in your statement to start with, Graham Carr-Jones, you did state that this is really important for the well-being of families. We know how mental health has increased, all of those things. And if you don't have a secure home, then it will not improve. And so I think it's very important that we do have that option to not only just provide temporary accommodation, but to actually set up, Dorset Council homes, a registered provider to actually be alongside some of these registered providers, because there is in there, I notice that the registered providers say, oh, we haven't got resources to help tenants to swap to a better sized home for their tenants, and they rely on other means for doing it. And therefore, we're not taking over anything that they're doing. And remember, I've had in my area, and I don't want to get parochial about this, but I only know what's happening in Purbeck, that when a social house comes up for, the tenant moves out or unfortunately dies, if that is deemed to be too expensive to actually repair, the registered housing will actually sell that house to anyone, that's out there. And I think that's completely wrong. And I think that's where we're losing stock for social housing, and we're not replacing it. So anything that we can do as a Dorset Council should be stepping up our support, not dropping back and thinking, oh, well, the registered providers will do everything for us. No, they don't, and they never have. Since we lost all housing stock in 2004, especially in Purbeck. I mean, I've got the old Purbeck, actually, affordable housing supplementary document, which you mentioned in there, which says 2012 to 2027. And in there is a lot of facts that actually haven't changed over the years about how we are not providing enough affordable housing. And it's really incumbent on us, and I don't think why can we not have a strategy that includes what Howard wants and to be stronger worded. Thank you.
Graham?
And I think prior to Councillor Ezard's statement, I think we already agreed to do that. But what I do want to say, and I get where she's coming from in terms of when we see RPs selling off properties, and we all get very, very cross about it. However, we had in the strategy about housing standards, and we all know that there are some quite poor housing that own the old stock the RPs own. So it makes sense for them to get rid and to rebuild elsewhere. And as a point of order here, they build an awful lot more houses than they sell, Chairman.
To say that the house that was sold in my road recently had no central heating, no kitchen, just a stone sink, and the repairs went on for months before it was sold, the refurbishment. So I do get where Graham's coming from, although I did complain to you at the time about them selling it off. Okay. I'm going to ask George to read the amended... Oh, sorry. Tony.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's exactly that point I was going to raise, because it sounds as though we are discussing an amendment and then an amendment to the amendment. Now, I've carried out a diligent search of my laptop and I can't find a copy of either. So I would welcome if it can be displayed on the screen, please, so we can fully take in the proposal that is part of that. And I think it really does need to be done that way, because I think just reading it out once is not enough.
George is going to read it out, but we'll also have it hopefully displayed on the screen. Is that possible? Andrew?
Yes, if you want me to read it out now or after Andrew, and while Andrew's speaking, I'll put it up on the screen.
Sorry, I just wanted to give some facts for the fact that on the point we do some of this anyway. Intervene when housing registered providers don't. Just wanted to give that. I think we are broadly agreeing with this, aren't we? But there will be an announcement next week around getting £1 million grant from government to provide. I think it's 11.
Another million.
No, in terms of properties, so we're getting 11 homes from government grants, which we'll do ourselves. So we're already stepping in when registered providers aren't doing it. Small numbers, but just to give you some comfort that operationally we're committing to that anyway. It's taken a view of each circumstances. That grant was offered to local authorities. We took it, and we're delivering housing run by the council.
Okay, George, are you ready?
Can I just check that, Councillor Legg, that proposal 2 has been proposed and seconded?
I can't read that, but I did accept the word considered to be inserted as part of my amendment. It's not a second amendment, it's an adjustment of the first amendment. And so if that's in there, fine. Good, okay, yeah. Yep, thank you. I think so, yeah. I'm sorry.
We'll go on to the second amendment then, once we've voted on that. Are we ready to take a vote on the amendment that councillor Legg has proposed?
Proposal 1.
Proposal 1, yes. All those in favour? Those against? Those abstaining?
Is Tony abstaining?
Tony, are you abstaining?
Is it the amendment shown as the first one on the screen? Okay. Okay, I support that. Happy to vote for it.
So that proposal is, that amendment is carried, okay? Right. Howard?
I've never spoken so much at this committee. Mind you, I've only been on it since May. The second one is more of a drafting amendment, I think. It refers to paragraph 2.5 on that same page where we've just been looking. And we already have a carbon neutral policy, quite a strong one in this council. I just think that we should enforce it or bring it to the forefront, making sure people realise that we know about it and we intend to implement it. And therefore, at the end of this paragraph 2.3, I just want to add the words, which is carbon neutral. And this gets over this problem of informing people that we're conscious of what we're doing and we're applying our policies whenever we can, as well as the fact, of course, in housing, this protects the environment and also makes them less expensive to live in. And therefore, I think it's a relevant suggestion. But technically, I believe this is just really a drafting amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Andrew, do you want to come back?
Yeah, I'm just thinking it might maybe a procedural point. I mean, we clearly want to support all council policies in this area, but it may be, given this is covered, as you'd mentioned, in the climate and ecology strategies, whether we reference it by saying accessible and maintained to a decent standard in accordance with the climate and ecology strategy. The issue we have, the phrase, which is carbon neutral, this is a comment about existing housing, existing home ownership housing and other properties. Some of that won't be carbon neutral. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to be pedantic about it. I think it's certainly, the climate and ecology strategy goes into a lot more detail about what we're doing to improve that position. But the phrase, making sure everybody lives in carbon neutral properties, that's not the facts now, but that's the direction of travel for the government as well as for the council. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is procedurally, and George and others can advise on that, given that the policy which covers this is the climate and ecology strategy, is whether we just use that end sentence by saying maintain to a decent standard in accordance with the climate and ecology strategy or the relevant clause.
Sorry.
Actually. So I'm happy to go along with that because it does reinforce in this report to the Cabinet that we are aware of our climate responsibilities in housing. And that's what I really want to do, make people aware we know what we're talking about. So I'll accept that considerable drafting amendment again.
Graham.
The importance of that is to show how the strategies that the council has, they dovetail together. They don't sit in isolation, because we often look at things in isolation, and actually it's a big jigsaw with all the pieces fitting together. So I'm glad that that's acceptable to Councillor Legg.
Yeah. Let's ask George to read it out, and then you can decide whether you're going to second it.
Sharon, could we have the council's climate and ecological strategy, please?
Does anybody want to speak before we ask for a seconder? I suggest George reads it out before you second it, Beryl, so you know what you... Okay.
But yeah, I'd like to just tweak it a little bit if it's okay. Can I? Is that? Can I put a spire in there?
All right.
Yeah. It is, but I think it's a bit woolly. Okay, which is in accordance with the Dorset Council's climate and ecological strategy, where we aspire to be carbon neutral. That's not quite, no, perhaps it's too much. Yeah, okay, I'll second.
So if there's nobody else wants to speak, we'll go to a vote on that. All those in favour? That's carried. Okay, does anybody want to speak to anything else on this housing strategy, or can we have a proposer and a seconder to send it to the Cabinet?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a very, very good, comprehensive paper. Very good going forward. I mean, I was the opposition spokesperson in Purbeck right up to 2019. So I've got all the paperwork still that goes back. So comparing that, and I can remember the officer at the end there, I can't remember, sorry, is it Tracy or Sharon, being there as well. So she's well aware of all of this. And I think it is possible now that the government has changed their attitude to having councils being able to borrow and become, have companies, trading companies and things. I think I'm all for this, and I really am behind it. And I well done. Well done to the officers. Thank you.
Pauline.
And Graham and his, other, councillors. Thank you.
Thank you for the strategy. It's absolutely excellent. Can I pick up on one point that sounds like nitpicking? And I welcome the point about getting empty properties back into use. I've tried to do that with a couple in my patch, and our system is it doesn't lend itself to someone who is not an owner reporting an empty property. So could we have a look at that one, please? Because that's two properties that could be back in use. And if you were just, quotes, a member of the public trying to report it, it's not clear at all how you do that.
Happy to. If you let us know the details, we could certainly pick that up. Yeah, thank you.
Stella.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the meat of this. As I said in the presentation, I mean, there will be an overarching delivery plan, but we want to be getting on quicker on some things. So it'll be various, and as we've been talking about the climate and ecology strategy, that's one strand, for example, of where we'll be populating a detailed delivery plan about how we, for example, working with the registered providers on their. There's a program that the government sponsored called carbon decarbonisation program, for example. So some detailed delivery around that. What does that mean? What does it look like in terms of performance? So that delivery plan will be in various chunks. So there'll be some things that we're already working on, and we'll be able to share that with members and the new housing board. Again, that's one of the reasons it's been set up. The overarching delivery plan with all of this in place, we're looking to have something ready for regular scrutiny in the first 3 months of the last 3 months of the calendar year, January, February, March. So that will be fed through various performance board bodies that some of you are involved in, and will be able to be scrutinised on that detail. But at this stage, because we've done it in sequence, it's deliberately left to that second stage. We wanted to make sure everybody was happy with that direction of travel first, and then to move really swiftly into the delivery piece. I mean, many people are making the point that you're making. It's really the important part is delivery, but that's the immediate next step, and we'll be straight on to it. We're expecting to provide red grid reports, whether it's this committee or scrutiny or others. Happy to be guided, but we'll certainly be producing progress reports on how this is, how the strategy is being delivered. So, if invited, happy to talk to you.
Okay, thanks. Graham, do you want to come back before we take a vote on sending?
To sum up, Chair, thank you. I think one of the things, and if Councillor Walsh were here, he'd be saying that key in that delivery plan is the local plan. That's the big ticket for the whole of the delivery for housing across the district. So it leaves it to me really just to thank your committee for their input, and I guess you'll be putting forward those recommendations to Cabinet, and I'm sure that if they feel so, they will commit to those and do it, because I don't think it's onerous. I think it's actually great that we've had a good, robust discussion around it. So thank you. And finally, just one more word of thanks to all the officers and in Team Housing that have worked so hard behind this. Thanks, Chair.
Excellent report. Can we have a proposer and a seconder to send this report to Cabinet?
So proposed.
Sorry.
I so propose.
Thank you. Councillor Batzone, Councillor Ezard to second. Okay, thank you. Sorry?
So just to clarify, the proposal that you're voting on now is to recommend the housing strategy and its objectives to Cabinet, along with the two amendments that Councillor Legg has proposed. So you're voting on all three of those, and they'll be recommended to Cabinet if you decide that.
Thank you. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, number 9, exempt business. There is no exempt business, so I declare the meeting closed. Thank you, everybody.